Back, and in case you're just joining us, it's still the press reaching in live from our studios in Abuja. And before we went on that break, we said we'll be having our guests, and of course our guests have joined us. But before we introduce you to our guest, our own special guest, the CBN governor had visited the House of Assembly yesterday to discuss the tendencies of the new Naira notes. And during his visit, there were a lot of couples of discourse in the House. Well, why not take a listen?
We are beginning to see some of the benefits. Like I said, inflation last month somewhat trended, at least it's not rising, it's not stagnating, it's somewhat moderating. And we're thinking and expecting that it will continue to moderate. Exchange rate will stay relatively stable. And what we're even hoping with this exercise, that Naira can even get stronger. To have your money that you have not been able to send into the bank, we certainly will give you the opportunity to bring them back into the CBN and redeem it. Either you pay it in your bank account or you want to do exchange, we give you. You will not lose your money.
Well, having heard that, let's quickly move to our discussion, and we've been joined by our own, I wouldn't call her our own in-house analyst because, well, let's say, okay, I don't know the title. Yes, we've been joined by Epelle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Miss D. How are you doing this morning? So what title should I put in your name next time?
We need to ask Miss Annabelle Oji. Annabelle will be the best person to give me a title.
All right, we see the issues surrounding the old Naira notes. What's your take about it, first of all? Because I shared an experience yesterday, how, of course, I was stranded where I went to buy something. And yesterday, too, I went to make some withdrawal, and what we talked about in the show yesterday seemed to have happened because someone had called in and said he was charged 2,000 Naira for withdrawing 20,000, and when he was able to collect that cash, he was even happy. And I was like, oh. Then I went out yesterday and the same thing happened to me, but in my own case I refused to take it. So how would you react? Because I'm sure you've been faced with this experience, in it, maybe except you're not in Nigeria, but if you're in Nigeria, then it has happened to you in some way. And how have you taken it?
First off, I think that I want to be the one to apologize to Nigerians for what has turned into a rather unfortunate execution of what is ideally a good policy. Fundamentally, the redesign of the Naira and the idea of reducing the amount of cash in circulation in the economy itself historically is a very good policy plan, not just for Nigeria but for anywhere in the world where this becomes important. However, what we're experiencing is, would I say, a clash of ideologies and a clash of personal sentiments. Really, that's really what it is, because there seem to be, for this type of policy to succeed, there has to be a congruence between the administrators of our fiscal policy dimensions, the administrator of our monetary policy dimensions, and even the government. But what's happening now is this: you have a good policy on the table for us to execute, which in every other part of the world where we've seen this happen before. After all, remember that what's happening in Nigeria now has just happened in the UK after the death of the Queen. There's a new currency in circulation that would bear the image and likeness of the King of England. But there's no fuss about this. Nobody's making a fuss about this. But why are we making a fuss about it here? If Godwin Emefiele and the Minister of Finance, Madam Zainab, and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria are not in alignment about a good policy, it automatically destroys the originally conceived idea of this policy, which is to regulate the amount of cash in our system. And that's just what's happening. Everybody is we are all suffering. What we're suffering is not a bad policy. We're not suffering from a bad policy. We're suffering from poor execution of a good policy, and the misalignment of personal sentiments. That's what we're actually suffering from, and it's important for everybody to understand it, because I've heard different versions of this story where people would like trash the policy altogether. But when you sit down and check the payoffs of this policy, it's an actual good policy. Nobody can knock this off technically. Nobody can knock this off economically. The evidence is there that this is a good policy. However, the execution of the policy has become a problem, because there is no congruence amongst the stakeholders that are in charge of implementing this. So all the long queues you're seeing in the banks, like I said, when personal sentiments is involved, things that ordinarily shouldn't be a problem start becoming a problem. Now we're talking of cash, the new Naira and the old Naira in circulation, and people having difficulty exchanging monies. All through this week, I've had issues with even e-banking, online banking. If we're having issues with the cash end, we're also having issues with the online banking, which also shows that it's either the banks are too burdened or the infrastructure itself now is overburdened, and there was no sort of planning to mitigate this type of issues. More and more people are going to the bank to seek solutions for exchanging their cash, and that's what the rush is about. So the bankers don't even have time to tend online to these online issues. Only yesterday I tried to pay for diesel at the station, and I was debited, but the attendant did not receive the payments, and he had already served the diesel, and it almost turned into a very chaotic. I think that what I can just say is that we need to be more emotionally intelligent to the sentiment of the times, which is that there are so many, borrowing the words of the Ghanaian president, malevolent forces that have come together to sort of stop us from seizing these moments. And I'm saying that because this is our moment as a country. Here we are right at the line, we can almost see the finish line to what is a very important presidential election, and then we have to deal with this. I've started seeing pockets of violence here and there, which is not stemming directly from issues relating to the election, but issues that are sort of raised by other things, and that's a very dangerous way to sort of approach the coming election. And I hope that more and more people can be emotionally intelligent, be the first person to pull out from a violent or a chaotic situation. So as soon as I saw that the attendant was trying to be, first thing I did was to apologize. I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. Please, as you can see, this is not any fault of mine. Do you want me to leave the diesel here, and then when I sort out my banking issues, I can come back? I don't mind leaving it." So I want to be the first person to pull out of a potentially violent situation, because what happens is when that happens and you don't step up to be the bigger person and you want to react to a reaction, that's what's happening. If you're reacting to someone else's reaction, before you know what's going on, I think that we can start to expect tensions here and there, because people are generally sad and unsettled lately.
Okay, just in line with this, I don't know where you're taking your angle from, but in line with this, what do you have to say about Nigerians who have decided to make this an opportunity to become wealthy all of a sudden? Because we saw that, like you said, this is a good policy. And we see Governor Emefiele, the CBN governor, trying to work with DSS and the rest to curb the menace of people extorting money from their own fellow Nigerians based on trying to get availability to this money or access to this money. And you see them, like, there's this racketeering of the new Naira notes, and then you have to, while swapping or trying to withdraw money, you get charged unnecessarily. Is this a Nigerian problem, or?
It's not a Nigerian problem, because I don't have the problem and I'm a Nigerian, and I'm sure you both do not have the problem. So I won't call it a Nigerian problem, because I'm a Nigerian, we are all Nigerians, and we don't have the problem. So for those that have the problem, I think that it is a manifestation of the stresses and strains in our society, in the Nigerian society. And it's the manifestations that you can see and the ones that we can see. How about the manifestations that we're not seeing? You know, and I'm calling them manifestations because these are the ones that we interact with on a daily basis. I read in the news, I haven't fact checked this, and anyone watching should try to fact check it, but I heard that there's an amount of money that's dedicated to banks on a daily basis from the central bank. I'm referring to the new Naira notes, which is roughly about 30 million Naira or so. I don't know if you've come across that news as well. And while the money seems to be scarce on the streets, as we can see, aka POS terminals where they are doing this racketeering, the money doesn't seem to be scarce in certain other places. I've seen videos on social media with people spraying bundles of new Naira notes that are getting up to millions of Naira. I saw a video on TikTok the other day. It was almost like a new Naira bath that the bride was having. And the first question I asked myself is, if the Naira is as scarce as I heard this morning that there are some POSs that are paying 1,000 Naira
to collect from the bank.
If you're using the bank, you can only withdraw 1,000 Naira per transaction. So if you want to withdraw 10,000 Naira, you have to do 10 transactions to get 10,000 Naira. Which is making it look as if the Naira is scarce, right? The new Naira is scarce. So if that's the case, are you telling me that the people who were spraying up to 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 million at that wedding, are you telling me that they were withdrawing 1,000 Naira from an ATM until they withdrew 10 million Naira in the new notes that they sprayed at that wedding? No. What happened is that 10 million Naira of the new notes was delivered to them in an executive vehicle with handshake and thank you very much, sir, God bless you, and that's what's happening. So we're not seeing that aspect of the racketeering of the new Naira is not being televised. The ones you're seeing now are those who are on survival mode, because there are different levels of criminals and criminality in our Nigerian system. They're the ones that are televised, which we can see and talk about, and they're the ones that are untelevised. We just know that they are going on, but we can't even, we can't prove it. If, for example, the authorities move swiftly to the couple to ask them questions like, okay, where did you people get 10 million Naira notes, and bring people in to explain to you how these things are happening, and move swiftly to check them. If we want to pretend like we don't know how they are happening, and move swiftly to check them, I think that we'll be in a better place. For these Nigerians, I think that there's an article that I came in contact with about 4 years ago, and it was a research that was done at the University of Princeton that talks about how poverty can reduce brain power. And, and a lot of people think that might be some sort of, a critical way to speak to people that are less privileged, but it's scientifically proven that a poor person is unable to make good decisions. It's scientifically proven, and these are some of the proofs of that theory, because the people who are racketeering this Naira assume that little profit they are making from doing what they're doing is what will snatch them out of poverty. But that's what would perpetually put all of us in poverty. And I really wish that I can sort of put the link out there for people to read it. That's a very good research paper that I think really exposed to me how the level of my socioeconomic condition can affect my ability to make either good or bad decision. So this is bad decision making that stems from a place of their poor socioeconomic condition. It's difficult for me to just blame them and say that, these people should be arrested, because eventually when you go down to the root cause of their behavior, it is poverty for them. Fundamentally, that's the reason. I don't think any of you, Sandra doesn't look to me like she's poor. I don't think that Sandra, are you under the poverty line? You don't look like Sandra doesn't look like she's going to do that. She doesn't. I wouldn't. Sandra doesn't look like she's going to do that, because of course she's not experiencing what they are experiencing. But I don't want to make excuses for because it's not just because it's not just all of them. There are people who are not experiencing poverty, but they're experiencing greed, and they are doing this out of just the despicable nature of who they are. Because there are a lot of people who feel the need to take advantage of others. Let us report the efforts of people who, I have friends who are going as far as doing everything possible to get a hold of the new currency, just to go down to areas where they know that it's needed to distribute it. I have a colleague who literally went to her hometown just to give those old ladies new Naira and collect their old Naira and bring it back to town and pay into her bank account. And I think that that's a very credible effort. When she shared it with me, I said to her that I think that more and more people are thinking in that direction. So instead of doing that, these POS people, you can as well think of getting the Naira from the banks, taking a short trip to the remote areas where it's difficult to access the cash, and help people exchange money. That's a good use of and you can even charge the regular rates and make more money.
That was what the CBN thought about when they came up with the swap agents. They said 30,000 of them, but although we don't see them, we don't know what they're doing. But then the CBN has what they call the swap agents in different areas. There are like 30,000 of them spread across Nigeria. I don't know.
Yes, the markets in those villages are closed.
What exactly they are doing, but that's the concept the CBN came up with. Go into the remote areas, distribute the new Naira note to them, and come back with their old notes. But I don't think that's happening. But then also, aside the fact or aside rejigging the economy, this new Naira, the whole concept was also done to help curtail vote buying ahead of the 2023 elections, which is just 24 days away from now. But with this new policy, CBN will accept old notes even after the February 10th deadline. And all of this, the way it's going, even with the constant shift in the withdrawal limit, don't you think that particular aim has been defeated?
When I read that story, my mind was just turning on its own. I have to say, because I truly haven't understood. Most times when I approach this, when I engage these news headlines that come from like people like the CBN governor, I like to think that he knows more than I do. So I always approach the story like, oh, the experts have spoken. So where is this coming from? Those of us that are non-experts, we need to at least calm down and learn what he's trying to accomplish. But first off, even in relationships, the CBN governor has turned out to be the type of man that I don't want to have anything to do with. The type of men who will tell you, they make one promise on Monday and no, seriously. And I feel like more and more people should discipline themselves in that way. I watched a clip the other day from Steve Harvey show, and the lady was asking that, how do you know a man who is serious? The only way to know a man who is serious is a man who keeps his word. If he says to you, oh, I'm currently on the press, I'm going to call you immediately after the press, your phone is going to ring by immediately after the press. And if there's a reason to even postpone that, he will let you know. But I see a situation whereby words and actions don't match. The last time the president spoke on this, he sounded very firm. And when I watched the video, I was like, wow, I've never been so proud of my president. And a few days later, we're not going to go back on our word. I was like, okay. And they said, oh, we're going to extend this by 10 days. The next time you come back and tell me I'm not going to go back on my word, I'm going to laugh. Because, you pretty much lose a hold of that group of people that sort of like count on the things that you say. So for those people that specialize in wanting to date men that break their hearts, don't stick to what they say they will do. They can enjoy things like these. I've had people that say things like, oh, even 2 years from now they can go to the bank and change the Naira, or is it not Nigeria? You can imagine where people have that sentiment. I think that if these other issues, which is why I said there's a lack of congruence, there's no agreement, because everyone has their own personal agenda and personal sentiments. The outgoing president is obviously, from his actions recently, is obviously trying to write history and leave his name in the sands of time that he did something to sort of give us a free and fair election. I've seen actions from the president to show that he's trying to accomplish that. So that is what the president is trying to accomplish, and most of the things he will agree with are things that align with that agenda. The CBN governor, who was, remember a month ago, at least I saw from from some posters that the CBN governor was also a presidential aspirant.
Yeah, not just
right?
He was.
I mean, there was no formal agreement from the CBN governor that he was running for president. I didn't see any formal agreement from him, but in my neighborhood where I live, there were posters that were advertising the CBN governor as a presidential aspirant. I'm sure
he aspired at some point. Yes, he did.
Good. So imagine a CBN governor / presidential. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's a CBN governor / presidential aspirant is now making a policy to regulate the Naira, to stop vote buying at a time where we are questioning his political. I want to go back to school.
We have a caller on
I
the
want
line.
to go back to school.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead and make your contributions.
This extension of the old Naira notes, not like the CBN say that even when the expiring date is off, and they can still bring the old currency to the central bank. If happens that is what is at stake, then changing of the Naira has no meaning, doesn't make any sense. If you want to do something, you do it. Forget about whatsoever that people may say. Or does it mean the CBN governor or the president, they are scared of what they are doing? If they are scared of it, let them just reverse their statement or reverse even the changing of the currency. Because anything that he wants to do surely must stop people. People must feel the pains. No intercourse without pains. So if they want to stop it, let them stop it, because actually the election is near. And even the little politician I know close to myself, they are even crying that they have upped them. The little ones that happens to know, they are crying that they have upped them with the amount of the money in the house which they cannot easily take out. And because they doesn't have, they don't want to give it out to people that will be helpful to them, that now that it is time for them, that will be, they'll use it to buy something that will be. So if they are not, let them not with others. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your contributions on the program. Okay, just before he called, I was also going to say something in this regard, because I know that this policy, it's not for average Nigerians like you and I, or like us. We cannot just wake up one morning and take 5,000 Naira to the CBN after February 10th deadline. So I'm not saying how this is going to work, because this policy is not for people with 10,000 Naira or 20,000 Naira walking into the CBN to deposit this kind of money. So first, there was the deadline for returning of old money in bulk, when they said the DSS was watching in the banks. We don't know how far that went. Then there's the new Naira note, and then there's the withdrawal limit, which we obviously know has been crossed, because you made mention of the video that you saw. I also saw that video of people throwing money in bulks, and we know that they didn't get that.
The new Naira.
So the policy is not even aligning. Some people are working against the policy, obviously, because all the bankers should be held accountable. Like, everybody should answer their father's name at this point. But then a lot of things has been defeated, like with this policy. The aim of this policy, lots of it have been defeated. But then people are still going to suffer, because it's saying no Nigerian will lose their money. And like our guest said, people are going to cry about this. It's going to hurt lots of people. So the question now is, how do we move forward, or how do we pretend to be okay with this? Because like they say, fake it till you make it. So how do we pretend to be okay with this till we're actually okay with it?
I think it's recognizing our reality. And what is our reality? Our reality is that we are a nation of poor people. In one of my articles, I pointed out that a lot of people see Nigeria as a big market. We talk of our numbers I don't know where we got that 250 million people, but let's agree that that's our number. It's nearly 200 million poor people or more. You know, so it's a big market of poor people. And also it's a big market of people who are not educated and enlightened. And that's why we need to be doing a lot of financial literacy programs in this period to make people even understand fundamentally how this policy aligns for our greater good. I think I want to see more money talk shows where we discuss and educate people, more like financial literacy, where we educate people on why this policy is important. And, you know, speaking of solutions, that's one way that the media can come in to educate people, really, because even some of the panics that we're having, let's talk about, you were mentioning that the first step was to collect back Naira in bulk. How about the part of the society where people save petty cash? There are people who it takes them almost a month to even save 10,000 Naira, and that 10,000 Naira is very important to them, and some of them have not had access to change that money, and I can imagine the anxiety and panic that such people will be undergoing. I'm talking of people who keep money under their mattress, under their inside Conco and all those types of things. You know, those are the types of people. And I've been asking myself recently, because anytime there's chaos, if you look carefully within that chaos, you would see opportunities. And what types of opportunities? A few years ago, I was hearing a phrase, banking the unbanked. I don't know if you've heard the fintech industry bastardized that phrase. I'm talking of banking the unbanked and how people can bank on their phone numbers. We have a few platforms like Eyowo and the rest of them where you can just use your phone number as a bank account to save money. Now is the time for those agents, those banking agents, to move swiftly to those communities to bank the unbanked that they said they wanted to bank all this while, right? Because when I went to the bank a few days ago, I met a lady who was hysterical, and when I tried to understand why she was irritated, she said that, oh, she's just worried, so she wanted to withdraw 50,000 Naira and just have it at home just in case. I told her, have it for what? What is it that you are feeling so anxious about, that you feel the need to have 50,000 Naira? I personally haven't felt would I say strangulated by this, because for the past 2 to 3 years I have personally tried to go cashless. You know, the only time you see me pay for anything with cash is when it's utterly necessary, and I try to opt for mobile banking or you know, using an app or internet banking. And although in this period I have suffered, because as we're having issues with cash, the bankers, of course, seemingly overburdened, are not even attending to all these online transactions that are having issues and whatnot. So it still comes down to what I said in the beginning, which is that there's a misalignment, you know. And one way to move past this is, first of all, recognizing our reality as a nation of poor, illiterate people that need to be educated and enlightened about what's happening. That's one of the first ways to reduce the anxiety. People like that woman who feel the need to just go to the bank to just get 50,000 Naira to just keep at home need to be educated enough to know that that's a counter-intuitive approach to a policy that seeks to bring all the money you're keeping in your house back to the bank. You are moving in the opposite direction of where we are all trying to go. So we all need to borrow Beyonce's word, we all need to be information as a nation. We all need to come together and understand what this policy is about. What are the ways to follow it? How do we support those who are unable to meet us halfway? The private sector needs to come in as well. All those private fintech companies. Now is the time to move swiftly. I want to see more adverts from them, offering. I want to see banks doing promos on opening bank accounts for people, simplifying the bank account opening process to accommodate people that are not yet in the system.
Because that should be very simple. We have NIN, BVN, and all of that. So with just your phone number, you should be able to open a comprehensive bank account at this point.
Yes, and that's something that we should be able to do. Teach people how to do basic transfers, make them understand that you can, the same way you can pay for something in cash, you can also accept it in as a transfer. All this
this is the reason why the CBN has come under attack, because they're saying that for CBN to have that policy, then there should be like steps or measures to orientate, because an average man just feel like, let me just have the money and still spend. So maybe proper orientation should have been done, but you know, we can't actually dwell so much on this topic because it keeps unfolding and there are other issues. So let's move quickly to with the little time we have, speak on the election. It's just few days to election, exactly 24 days before that's February 25th we've been looking onto, and it's saying, coming from INEC makes requests for seamless fuel supply. It says we are interested in stable political environment. It meets with NNPCL GMD. Now the INEC chairman is saying that their tendency, he has fears that the fuel scarcity might affect the election. Do you think in this regard?
If that's what the INEC chairman is saying, who am I to who am I to say anything
otherwise?
Or if that's what the INEC chairman is saying, congratulations to all of us, I guess. However, I think that I'm excited. I would say I'm excited because we've never been in this unique scenario situation in our political history where very few days, I like to say days now, I don't like to say weeks anymore, very few days, about 24 days to the general elections. I've seen a situation where we're surrounded by unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns, you know, which is why I said I am excited, because it is out of unknowns that glorious things always happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe we need to just, as a nation, come into this place where we allow the course of time to reveal certain things to us. I don't want to continually make postulations about things that I haven't seen or I haven't heard. You know, I want things to, would I say, manifest and show,
Just happen.
let things show up. And I'm saying that because it can get tricky when you try to, even, you know, when you're not getting a reaction out of a situation, sometimes you're tempted to react so that you can convince yourself that something has happened, and that's almost a mistake. You know, we should learn to just stay calm and stay put in the moment. I think that what I'm doing now is to make sure that I am sane and I am in a good frame of mind and I am sound and I am excited and happy about the election. And on election day, I hope that other people will share that same sentiments, because if we want to get too jittery about this, now the INEC chairman, which I don't encourage, is not the kind of sentiments you should be sharing publicly. It might be at the level of people's thoughts that all the fuel scarcity, but I don't think that as an INEC chairman and from that office that we should be getting
but it's actually the reality on ground.
It's the reality on ground, but there are people who, once they hear that, they wouldn't accept any other reality apart from that one that has come from that office. And that's what we need to be careful of, the extremes. Yes, if it's the reality on ground, then why do you feel the need to overemphasize reality? If it's the reality, then, like I said, let us flow into our reality. I think that creating unnecessary tensions here and there is not something that we need right now. And I'm hoping that, just as this government has promised, and President Buhari's government has promised to deliver an election that is on time, an election that is free and fair, let us stand by that word and hold on to this government that they will do just that.
All right, we'll have a caller on the line. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press. Hello, good morning. Yes, we can hear you.
Why am I saying this? Now, like in my place, we are buying food yesterday, 400 naira per unit. Some people could not even go to their farm and that's something doing that. Some people that you think they'll never drink in their life, they are going to the market that is working as if they're buying beer. Buying, they are going very fast because of the essence of the bike, the pattern of it. You see, if you are running, if you are coming in for at least for a vote like this, and as a political, as a party leader, thereby a party that is still ruling, are you getting me? Then something of this nature is happening. How do you think people will feel? How do you think that people can continue? There are so many things that have gone on. Like the other time I asked one of our analysts in the studio, I think, can we get it right? He said, yes, we can. We are not getting it right. Each day things are going ahead of us. After we are chasing it, it's not feel like that. I have to appeal to them. So many people got their voters, and there is no sign since the inception of democracy. People went for their PVC and acquired their PVC just like that. It's only when the INEC got it wrong this time. If not, I believe Nigeria will choose a credible leader. Like somebody was talking this morning when I was watching Channel TV. He said the moment you sold your birthright now for a pot of soup, then be ready to face the consequence for the next 4 years. Not even just 4 years. Because anyone that comes, you will still be looking for another extra 4 years, 8 years. So we have to all get it right now. The suffering is piling just like Mount Kilimanjaro. Not until we decided to demolish it, we'll face it. Everybody will face it.
All right, thank you so much for your contributions. Still on the issue that we were discussing before we got that call, you know, this issue of fuel scarcity is in line with the mission of the INEC chairman to secure uninterrupted supply for petroleum products for the 100,000 vehicles that he has asked NURT to provide ahead of the 2023 elections, that will convey and deploy personnel and materials to the 176,000 actually polling units across the country. So which means it's not just in some particular areas. That means if this issue of fuel scarcity persists, there won't be fuel to carry, or for the vehicles to run and carry out all of these activities they are supposed to carry out. Is it the materials, the personnel, to and fro? So it's still going to affect the elections in one way or the other. But then I'm thinking, if for some reasons after saying this and all of a sudden it just seems like everything gets better and then there's fuel everywhere, doesn't that say something?
Yes, but that has not happened. That has not happened. So like I said, on this campaign trail, the road to the 2023 general elections, we've been making a lot of postulations. And I'm saying that personally, and I hope that more and more people can align with that, I want to stop making postulations. You just said if. It hasn't happened, so we can't really use a hypothetical situation to sort of like make predictions on what's going to happen. I want to wait and see what is going to happen. Already I've heard all these conversations about fuel scarcity hindering the election. The INEC chairman has come out to assert our reality that this is what's going on, which is fine. I'm happy that he's communicating. But we've also gotten validation that the election would hold on February 25. I don't think I have heard any contrary information that the election would not hold. So provided that I have my PVC, you have your PVC, I want us to stay calm. I want us to focus on the D-Day, which is February 25, and pray and hope that we're all able to manage ourselves to go to the poll with the little energies that we have and vote.
But Miss Epelle, let's say we do not postulate as what you've said, and we just say, okay, we get our card and we go on election day, and when we discover and get on to that polling, you discover that, oh, there are no INEC materials, there are no INEC personnel. A situation where he would have, like in this case, he has met with the NNPC managing director to ensure that those things are actually avoided, and he has not made such step, and we just go to polling unit and see these things happening. Is that rather not
I'm sure we've been to polling stations where on arrival we realized that the BVAS machines are not working. You know, Nigerians are very resilient people. I'm personally not, I'm aware of the situation, but as you can see, I have done the fundamental work of educating and enlightening myself to a place where I cannot be distracted by any other sentiments other than I will vote on February 25. It is up to the states and the postulations around the elections to decide whether it will hold or not. As for me and my house, we are ready to vote on February 25, and I'm saying that that should be the conviction and sentiment of the average Nigerian. We can't afford to approach this election in fear. We can't afford to approach this election feeling less confident about our chances. Imagine sleeping every day from now till the election with like, oh, will this election hold? I'm going to be demotivated. Like I said, there's been no announcement, official or unofficial, that the 2023 general election would not hold. It's going to hold on February 25. That's what we've been told. And I am excited about that date, and I'm looking forward to it. And I really hope that the issues on the ground can either sort themselves out, or the people who are sort of puppeteering the situation see need to just allow things to go according to plan. And if there's a counter plan, I'm sure we're all going to come, it's going to mature at some point. For whatsoever reason that this is being done, I think that if we can stay calm and focused enough, it's going to manifest.
All right, thank you so much. I think with that, we'll draw the curtain today on the press, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. And that was our conversation with Evelyn Dan Epelle. It's been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Sandra.
All right, so we'll see you tomorrow. I am Sandra Agbi. Bye for now.
And I am Victoria Agbi. Have a great day.